At the airport, my ticket was canceled. I checked my phone. Dad texted, "Have fun walking home, loser." Then Mom said, "Stop acting poor, take a bus like you should." So their faces went pale when I stood at the airline counter watching the gate agent's expression shift from professional courtesy to uncomfortable pity. My flight to San Francisco had vanished from the system. Just gone, like someone had reached into the database and erased my existence. "I'm so sorry, Miss Chen, but your ticket was canceled approximately 40 minutes ago. The refund has already been processed to the original payment method." My stomach dropped. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and saw the messages waiting. Dad, "Have fun walking home, loser." Mom, "Stop acting poor, take a bus like you should." 3 years. 3 years of them pretending to support my career while systematically undermining every opportunity that came my way. This wasn't the first time they'd sabotaged me, but standing in LAX with my suitcase and laptop bag, watching other passengers board the plane that would take them to their destinations while mine had been stolen from under me, something inside me finally cracked open. Not anger. Clarity. I'd spent my entire adult life making excuses for them, convincing myself their behavior stemmed from concern rather than malice. My therapist had tried to help me see the patterns, but I'd resisted. They were my parents. They loved me, even if they had a strange way of showing it. The gate agent was still talking, offering to help me book a new flight. I barely heard her. My mind was racing through memories, connecting dots I deliberately left unconnected. The job offer in Boston that mysteriously fell through after someone claiming to be my former supervisor gave a scathing reference. I'd never listed that supervisor because I'd left that position on bad terms, but somehow the hiring manager had spoken with her anyway. My parents had been so sympathetic when I came home crying. The apartment I was supposed to move into, the one I'd saved for months to afford, suddenly rented to someone else the day before I was meant to sign the lease. The landlord had received a call about me, he'd said. Concerns about my reliability. The graduate school recommendation that never arrived, even though my professor swore she'd submitted it weeks before the deadline. My mother had offered to hand-deliver it herself since she'd be in that neighborhood anyway. Every time I tried to build something, they'd appeared with sympathy and solutions that kept me exactly where they wanted me, dependent, nearby, controllable. I thought about my brother, Mark. Golden child Mark, who could do no wrong. Mark, whose every achievement was celebrated while mine were met with concern that I was working too hard, reaching too far, setting myself up for disappointment. Mark, who still lived 3 blocks from our parents and had Sunday dinner with them every week. Mark, who told me last month that he was tired of being their puppet. That he envied my independence. I'd laughed at him then. Independence? I was 27 and still asking their opinion on every major life decision. The gate agent touched my arm gently. "Miss Chen? Are you all right?" I focused on her face. She looked genuinely worried. "I need to make a phone call. Can you hold on?" I stepped away from the counter and dialed my best friend, Jasmine. She answered on the second ring. "Riley? Aren't you supposed to be in the air right now?" "They canceled my ticket." My voice sounded strange in my own ears. Flat. "My parents canceled my ticket." Silence. Then, "I'm going to say something, and I need you to really hear me. Are you ready?" "Yes." "This is the 8th time they've done something like this in the 2 years I've known you." "8th. And those are just the ones you've told me about." Jasmine's voice was careful but firm. "You keep giving them access to your life, and they keep using it to hurt you." "I know." "Do you? Because you sound different right now." "I am different." I looked at the departure board, at all those destinations I'd never allowed myself to really want. "I'm done." Done? Or done until they apologize and you forgive them again done? Done. Another pause. "What do you need?" "A place to stay when I get back. And maybe a witness, because I'm about to do something they won't see coming." Jasmine laughed, a sharp sound of relief. "My spare room is yours for as long as you need it." "What else?" "Nothing yet. I'll figure it out on the way home." I hung up and returned to the gate agent. "Can I book a new ticket?" "Any airline, any route. I just need to get home today." She typed rapidly. "I have a flight through Denver leaving in 2 hours. It'll get you into San Francisco by 9 tonight." "Perfect." I paid with my credit card, the one my parents didn't know about. The one I'd opened 6 months ago when some small, stubborn part of me started planning for this exact moment, even if I hadn't wanted to admit it. During the layover in Denver, I opened my laptop and started making lists. Not revenge fantasies. Practical steps. My parents had always underestimated me, mistaking my kindness for weakness, my patience for stupidity. They taught me everything I needed to know about manipulation while trying to keep me under their thumb. Time to be a better student than they'd intended. I landed in San Francisco at 9:47 p.m. Jasmine was waiting outside baggage claim, her car idling in the passenger pickup zone. I threw my suitcase in the back and climbed in. "You look terrifying," she said. "I've never seen you look terrifying before." They've been accessing my accounts. Email, bank statements, everything. They know my passwords because I've never thought I needed to hide anything from them. Oh my goodness, Riley. I spent the flight documenting everything I can remember. Every sabotage, every manipulation. I've got emails, texts, voicemails. I saved everything because I kept thinking maybe I was wrong, maybe I was being too sensitive. I pulled out my phone. I wasn't wrong. Jasmine merged into traffic. What's the plan? First, disappear from their radar completely. New passwords, new accounts, new everything. Then I start rebuilding what they destroyed. And then? Then I let them worry. Let them wonder. Let them realize they've lost access to the thing they valued most, control over me. She smiled. That's just the beginning though, isn't it? That's just the beginning. Update 1. 3 weeks have passed since the airport incident, and I haven't contacted my parents once. Not a call, not a text, nothing. Their messages started concerned, shifted to angry, and have now settled into a pattern of manipulation so textbook I could teach a class on it. Mom, your father is worried sick. Please just let us know you're alive. Dad, this is incredibly selfish. We're your parents. We deserve respect. Mom, Mark says you're staying with a friend. When are you coming home? I blocked them after that last one. Not out of anger anymore. I'd moved past anger into something calmer and more focused, but because I needed silence to build what came next. The first week, I focused on security. Changed every password to random strings of characters I stored in an encrypted manager. Moved my money to a new bank they'd never heard of. Set up a new email address and began the tedious process of updating my professional contacts. The second week, I reached out to everyone they'd burned me with. The Boston job opportunity had been filled, but the hiring manager remembered me. Remembered, too, the strange reference call that hadn't matched my application. When I explained what had happened, she was horrified. She connected me with her network and promised to keep my current search confidential. The landlord who'd rented my apartment to someone else admitted he'd felt pressured by the call. Someone had claimed to be my employer, said I'd been terminated for theft. He'd been young, new to property management, and hadn't thought to verify. He felt terrible. I told him I understood and asked if he knew of any other available units. He did. A better apartment, actually. Same building, higher floor, recently renovated. The previous tenant had broken their lease. If I wanted it, he'd hold it for me and waive the deposit as an apology. I moved in during the third week. Jasmine helped me, along with 2 colleagues from my current job who'd somehow gotten wind of my situation. Sarah from accounting and Tom from IT showed up with a truck and muscles, asking no questions, offering nothing but support. My new apartment had floor-to-ceiling windows facing west. Every evening, the sunset painted the walls gold and orange. I'd sit on my second-hand couch with tea and watch the city transform, feeling something unfamiliar, peace. Work had noticed the change in me. I'd always been competent, but I'd held myself back, accepting whatever they offered, never pushing for more. Now I pushed. I volunteered for the high-profile projects. I stayed late not because I was afraid of disappointing anyone, but because the work genuinely interested me. My supervisor, Patricia, called me into her office on a Friday afternoon. I'd prepared myself for criticism, old habits, but she smiled. I wanted to talk about your career trajectory here. You've been with us for 18 months, and frankly, you've been underutilized. Your work on the Morrison account last week was exceptional. Have you considered moving into a senior analyst role? I didn't know we had openings. We don't. We'd be creating one. For you. The promotion came with a substantial raise. More importantly, it came with respect. Patricia saw what my parents had spent years trying to obscure. I was good at what I did. Mark called me during my lunch break the following Monday. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Riley? Oh, thank God. They've been losing their minds. Then they should probably see someone about that. I'm not calling for them. I'm calling because I need to tell you something. He sounded strained. They're planning something. I don't know what, but Mom's been making phone calls. She used that voice, you know the one. Sweet but with razors underneath. Thanks for the warning. Riley, I mean it. She found out about your new place. I don't know how, but she knows the address. My blood went cold. You didn't tell her? Of course not. But she was at my apartment yesterday, and I made the mistake of having my mail on the counter. You'd sent me that housewarming card, remember? The return address was visible. I'd sent it before I'd fully understood the scope of their surveillance. Stupid. What else did she say? That you'd gone too far. That this little rebellion of yours was embarrassing the family. That she was going to fix things one way or another. Mark's voice dropped. She scared me, Riley. And Mom doesn't usually scare me. I'll handle it. How? I'm still figuring that out. After I hung up, I sat in my car outside the office building and thought. My parents had operated in shadows for years, manipulating situations while maintaining their image as concerned, loving parents. They'd gotten away with it because I'd been complicit in the fiction, making excuses, hiding the evidence, protecting their reputation while they shredded mine. What if I stopped hiding? That evening, I began writing. Not an angry rant or an emotional appeal. A timeline. Dates, events, documentation. Every sabotage, every manipulation, laid out with the same analytical precision I use for work reports. The Boston job, screenshots of the email exchange, a written statement from the hiring manager about the false reference. The apartment, rental application, correspondence with the landlord, his admission about the fraudulent call. Graduate school, email from my professor confirming she'd submitted my recommendation, correspondence with the admissions office showing it never arrived. The cancelled flight, bank statement showing the refund, screenshots of their texts, airline confirmation that the cancellation came from the account holder, my mother. Page after page of evidence I'd collected without realizing I was collecting it. Because some part of me had always known I'd need proof. I created a private website. Nothing fancy, just a clean layout with a timeline and supporting documents. I password protected it and sent the link to exactly 3 people, Jasmine, Mark, and my therapist. This is for my records, I explained to each of them. If anything happens, if they try to claim I'm unstable or lying or dramatic, this exists. My therapist responded immediately, this is an important step. You're establishing your reality independent of their narrative. Well done. Mark took longer. When he finally replied, he wrote, I had no idea it was this extensive. I'm so sorry. I should have seen it. You weren't supposed to see it. That's how it works. Jasmine came over that night with Thai food and wine. We sat on my couch with our containers of pad Thai, and she read through the entire website on her phone. This is irrefutable, she said finally. But Riley, what are you going to do with it? Nothing, unless I have to. You think they'll escalate? Mark says they're planning something. My mother doesn't make threats idly. So you're waiting for them to make the first move? I'm giving them enough rope. She studied me with an expression I couldn't quite read. You changed. A month ago, you would have been trying to fix this. To find some way to make peace. A month ago, I didn't understand that peace with them meant submission. Now I do. Are you okay? Really okay? I considered the question. Was I? My parents had shaped my entire life around their need for control. They'd stolen opportunities, sabotaged relationships, kept me small and manageable. By all rights, I should be devastated. Grieving. Instead, I felt lighter. Clear. Present. I'm better than I've been in years. She raised her glass. To being done. To being done. The attack came 3 days later, and it came from an angle I hadn't anticipated. Update 2. I arrived at work Thursday morning to find Patricia waiting by my desk. Her expression was carefully neutral. Riley, I need you to come to HR with me. My stomach dropped. What's this about? It's better if we discuss it privately. The HR office felt smaller than usual. Patricia sat beside me while the HR director, Monica, pulled up something on her computer. We received a concerning call yesterday afternoon. A woman claiming to be your mother contacted our office with some serious allegations. Of course. They'd gone after my job. What kind of allegations? Monica's discomfort was visible. She claimed you'd been stealing from the company. That you'd embezzled funds and she felt morally obligated to report it before we discovered it ourselves. She said you'd done something similar at a previous employer and she was worried you'd target us next. Patricia made a noise of disgust. Monica, you've seen Riley's work. She's meticulous. These claims are absurd. I agree. Which is why I'm bringing this to Riley directly rather than launching a formal investigation based on a phone call. But Riley, I have to ask, is there any truth to these accusations? None whatsoever. My mother is lying. I kept my voice steady. This is part of a pattern of behavior that's been going on for years. She's trying to sabotage my career because I've cut contact with her. Monica and Patricia exchanged glances. Do you have documentation of this pattern? Yes. Extensive documentation. I pulled out my phone and sent them both the link to my website. While they read, I sat very still, breathing slowly, keeping my hands loose in my lap. I would not let my parents' poison seep into this space I'd built for myself. Patricia finished first. Her face had gone hard. This is unconscionable. Monica took longer. When she looked up, her expression had shifted from concerned administrator to protective ally. Riley, I'm so sorry. No one should have to document abuse like this. Will there be an investigation? Into you? Absolutely not. The accusations are baseless, and your work speaks for itself. However, I will be making a note in our records that your mother is not an authorized contact and any future calls from her or your father should be immediately referred to legal. Monica's jaw tightened. We don't tolerate harassment of our employees, from any source. Thank you. There's one more thing. The woman who called, she was very convincing. She had details about your employment here, your position, even your supervisor's name. How would she have access to that information? I thought about all the times I'd mentioned work in family phone calls, back when I'd still believed I was talking to people who cared about my success. All the innocent details I'd shared, never imagining they'd be weaponized. I told her. Before I understood what she was doing with the information. Patricia touched my shoulder. You're safe here. We've got your back. Walking back to my desk, I felt something shift. My parents had overplayed their hand. They'd moved from subtle manipulation to overt attack, and in doing so, they'd created witnesses. People who'd seen their behavior firsthand and believed me. I called Mark during lunch. They contacted my work. Tried to get me fired. Oh my gosh. Are you okay? Better than okay. HR documented everything. They can't claim I'm making this up anymore, there are professional witnesses. Riley, you need to be careful. If they're escalating like this, I am being careful. But I'm not hiding anymore either. That evening, I did something I'd been considering for weeks. I called my Aunt Linda, my father's sister. She'd always been kind to me, though we'd grown distant over the years. My parents had encouraged that distance, I realized now. Another connection severed to keep me isolated. Riley. What a wonderful surprise. I haven't heard from you in ages. I know, and I'm sorry about that. Aunt Linda, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Have my parents ever said anything to you about me that seemed off? Like they were concerned about my mental health or my behavior? Long pause. Why are you asking? Because I've recently discovered they've been sabotaging my life for years, and I'm trying to understand the full scope of it. She sighed deeply. I was afraid of this. Yes, honey. Your mother has been telling the family for years that you're unstable. That you have episodes where you make wild accusations and need careful handling. She said you were seeing specialists but didn't want anyone to know because you were embarrassed. The room spun. What kind of accusations? That your parents were abusive. That they controlled your money, isolated you from friends, undermined your career. Every time you'd pull away or seem upset with them, she'd call the family and say you were having another episode. That we needed to give you space and not believe anything you said during these times. So the entire family thinks I'm mentally ill. Thought. Past tense. I stopped believing your mother about 6 months ago when she couldn't keep her story straight. Some of the details kept changing. And you know your mother, she's always been a bit too concerned with appearances, a bit too controlling. I started wondering if maybe you were telling the truth, not having episodes. Why didn't you reach out to me? Because I wasn't sure, and if I was wrong, I'd be interfering in something I didn't understand. But Riley, if what you're telling me now is true, if they really have been doing these things, you need to protect yourself. Your mother has laid groundwork to make you look unstable. If you try to expose them, she'll use that against you. We talked for another hour. Linda shared stories I'd never heard, details about my mother's need for control, my father's willingness to enable her, the family dynamics I'd been too close to see clearly. She also told me about the family trust, money left by my grandmother that was supposed to be split between Mark and me when we turned 30. Your mother's been managing it. She told everyone she was investing it wisely, growing it for your futures. But a few of us have been questioning whether she's really doing that or if she's been using it to maintain control over you and your brother. How much money are we talking about? For each of you? Around $300,000. Maybe more if it's been properly invested. I went numb. $300,000. Money that could have paid for graduate school, for apartments, for independence. Money they'd hidden from me while forcing me to rely on them. Aunt Linda, I need to look into this. Would you be willing to provide a statement about what my mother's been telling the family? Absolutely. It's time someone stood up to her. After we hung up, I sat in the dark apartment watching the city lights blur through my tears. Not tears of sadness. Tears of rage so pure it felt clean. They'd stolen my money. Poisoned my family against me. Tried to destroy my career. All while playing the role of concerned parents dealing with a troubled daughter. The documentation website was no longer enough. I needed proof of the financial theft. I needed a lawyer. Jasmine knew someone. Her cousin practiced family law and had experience with financial abuse cases. His name was David Chen, no relation to me, unfortunately, and he agreed to meet with me Saturday morning. His office was small but professional, tucked into a building near the courthouse. David was younger than I'd expected, maybe 35, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. I laid out everything. The timeline, the documentation, the family trust, my aunt's willingness to testify. He took notes, asked clarifying questions, and didn't once suggest I was overreacting. This is a strong case. The challenge will be proving your mother mismanaged or stole from the trust. Do you have any account information? No. She's always said the trust was handled and I'd get my share when I turned 30. I'm 27 now. We'll need to subpoena the trust documents. That will require filing a formal complaint. It'll also mean your parents will know you're taking legal action. Good. He looked up. Most people in your situation are afraid of that moment. Afraid of the confrontation. I'm done being afraid of them. I can see that. All right, let's do this properly. I'll need written statements from everyone willing to testify, your friend Jasmine, your brother if he's willing, your Aunt Linda, the Boston hiring manager, the landlord, your therapist. Everyone who can corroborate the pattern of behavior. What about my HR director? She documented the phone call where my mother tried to get me fired. Even better. Professional witnesses carry significant weight. He leaned back in his chair. Riley, I want to be clear about what happens when we file. Your parents will likely retaliate. They'll escalate, possibly try to have you declared incompetent, might spread more lies. It will get ugly. It's already ugly. I'm just making sure everyone can see it now. He smiled. Then let's get to work. Over the next 2 weeks, I collected statements. Jasmine wrote 4 pages detailing every incident she'd witnessed or I'd told her about. Mark struggled more, torn between supporting me and maintaining his relationship with our parents, but eventually provided a careful statement focusing on what he'd directly observed. Aunt Linda's statement was devastating. She outlined years of my mother's manipulation, the stories spread about my mental health, the times she discouraged other family members from contacting me directly. She also provided names of other relatives who might be willing to testify. My therapist's statement was clinical and precise, clear documentation of parental abuse patterns, noting that my descriptions had remained consistent over time and aligned with recognized patterns of familial control and financial abuse. The Boston hiring manager confirmed the fraudulent reference call. The landlord confirmed the false claim about my employment termination. My HR director provided official documentation of my mother's attempt to interfere with my job. Patricia went beyond what I'd asked and wrote her own statement about my professional capabilities, noting that the accusations my mother had made were inconsistent with my demonstrated character and competence. David filed a complaint on a Wednesday afternoon. By Thursday morning, my phone was exploding. 53 missed calls from my mother. 37 from my father. Text messages that started pleading and rapidly deteriorated into threats. Mom, how could you do this to us? After everything we've done for you? Dad, you're going to regret this. I promise you that. Mom, we're trying to protect you from yourself and you repay us with lies and legal action? Dad, no daughter of mine would betray her family like this. Mom, when you come to your senses, we might not be willing to forgive you. I forwarded her message to David. Keep them coming, he said. This kind of communication only helps our case. Mark called Friday evening. He sounded exhausted. They know I gave a statement. They're furious. Dad said I'm choosing sides, that I'm betraying the family. I'm sorry you're caught in this. Don't be. I should have stood up to them years ago. But Riley, they're not handling this well. Mom's talking about going to your apartment, confronting you in person. I think you should be prepared for that. Let her come. I have cameras now. I'd installed a video doorbell the previous week, along with a security camera in the hallway. Another lesson learned: document everything. Saturday afternoon, they came. I was working on my laptop when the doorbell camera alerted me. Both of them stood in the hallway, my mother's face tight with fury, my father looking uncomfortable but determined. My mother pressed the doorbell repeatedly. Riley, we know you're in there. Open this door right now. I watched through the camera feed on my phone. I didn't move from my couch. Riley, this is ridiculous. We're your parents. You can't treat us like criminals. My father said something I couldn't hear. My mother's face got even tighter. She started pounding on the door. If you don't open this door, we're calling the police. We'll tell them you're having a mental health crisis and need to be evaluated. We're concerned citizens, worried parents. They'll break down this door, Riley. Is that what you want? I pulled out my phone and called David. They're at my apartment making threats. What should I do? Are you recording? Yes. Video and audio. Perfect. Call the police yourself. Tell them you have 2 people harassing you at your home, making threats, and refusing to leave. Tell them you have it documented. Beat them to it. I called 911. The dispatcher was professional and calm. Officers would be there within 10 minutes. Through the camera, I watched my mother continue to pound on the door. My father stood back, looking increasingly uncertain. Good. He should be uncertain. He should be terrified. The police arrived in 8 minutes. 2 officers, 1 male, 1 female. They listened to my parents' story first: concerned parents, troubled daughter, mental health crisis. The same script my mother had been perfecting for years. Then I opened the door. Officers, I'm Riley Chen. These are my parents. I've cut contact with them due to ongoing abuse and harassment. I have a restraining order application pending, and I have video evidence of them threatening me just now. The female officer looked between us. Ma'am, can we come in and talk to you? Of course. I showed them the camera footage. My mother's threats about calling the police, her claim about having me evaluated, the pounding on the door. Then I showed them the text messages, the documentation website, the pending legal case. The male officer's expression hardened. Mr. and Mrs. Chen, you need to leave. Now. But our daughter, your adult daughter, has asked you to leave her alone. You've made threats. You're harassing her. If you don't leave immediately, I'll arrest you both. My mother's face went through several rapid transformations. Fury. Disbelief. Calculation. Finally settling on wounded dignity. This is a family matter. You're interfering in. You made it a legal matter when you showed up at her home making threats. Leave. Now. They left. I watched through the camera as they walked down the hallway, my mother's shoulders rigid with rage, my father's head down in what might have been shame. The female officer turned to me. Are you safe here? Yes. I have security cameras, and I'm in the process of getting a restraining order. Good. Document everything. Every call, every text, every attempt at contact. This kind of harassment typically escalates before it gets better. She handed me a case number and her card. If they come back, call 911 immediately. Don't engage with them, don't open the door, just call us. After they left, I sat on my couch shaking. Not from fear. From the realization that I just watched my parents threaten me on camera and seen their act fall apart under police scrutiny. The concerned parents' story only worked when I played along. When I stopped pretending, their ugliness became visible. David was delighted when I sent him the footage. This is exactly what we needed. Clear evidence of harassment and threats. The judge will fast-track your restraining order application. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for the following Thursday. I took the day off work and dressed in my most professional outfit. Prepared myself to face them in court. They brought a lawyer. I wasn't surprised. What surprised me was how ordinary their lawyer looked. I'd expected someone slick and aggressive. Instead, he was a middle-aged man in a rumpled suit who looked tired before the hearing even started. The judge reviewed the documentation. All of it. The timeline, the statements, the video footage, the text messages. It took 40 minutes. The courtroom was silent except for pages turning. When she finished, the judge looked at my parents over her glasses. Mr. and Mrs. Chen, I've reviewed the evidence Ms. Chen has presented. It's extensive and troubling. The pattern of behavior documented here constitutes harassment and financial abuse. I'm granting the restraining order. You are to have no contact with Ms. Chen, no calls, no texts, no emails, no third-party communication. You are not to come within 500 feet of her residence or workplace. Do you understand? My mother opened her mouth. Her lawyer put a hand on her arm. She closed it again. Do you understand? The judge repeated. Yes, my father said quietly. Mrs. Chen? Yes, my mother bit out. Additionally, I'm ordering you to provide a full accounting of the family trust established by Mrs. Chen's maternal grandmother. Ms. Chen has raised credible allegations of financial malfeasance, and this court will be investigating those claims. You have 30 days to provide complete documentation. My mother's face went white. The judge continued, if the investigation reveals that you have misappropriated funds from the trust, you will face both civil and criminal charges. This hearing is adjourned. Outside the courtroom, David squeezed my shoulder. That went as well as it possibly could have. She stole the money. You saw her face. I saw her face. So did the judge. That's why she ordered the investigation. He checked his watch. They have 30 days to produce the trust documents. If they can't, or if they've been altered, that's evidence of fraud. Either way, we'll get you your money. It's not about the money. I know. But you're entitled to it anyway. I walked back to my car through downtown streets filled with people going about their normal Friday lives. I just watched a judge order my parents to stay away from me. I'd just taken the first real step toward reclaiming everything they'd stolen. And I felt fine. Better than fine. Whole. David walked me to my car. You handled yourself beautifully in there. I've had clients who fall apart the moment they see their abusers in court. You stayed steady. I've had a lot of practice staying steady around them. He leaned against my car door. The trust investigation will take a few weeks. The judge ordered them to produce documents within 30 days, but will likely need to bring in forensic accountants. Are you prepared for what we might find? You mean, am I prepared to discover my mother stole hundreds of thousands of dollars from me and my brother? I unlocked my car. I've been preparing for it since Aunt Linda told me about the trust. In some ways, it'll be a relief. Concrete proof of what I've known intuitively for years. Most people would be devastated. I think I did my devastating years ago. I just didn't recognize it as devastation because it happened so slowly. I opened the door. Thank you, David. For believing me. For building a case strong enough that the judge couldn't ignore it. You built the case. I just presented it. He smiled. Call me next week. We'll strategize the trust investigation. Driving home, I found myself taking the long route through the city. Past the neighborhood where I'd grown up, though I didn't turn down my parents' street. Past my old high school, where I'd been a straight-A student desperately trying to earn approval that never came. Past the library where I'd spent countless afternoons studying, the coffee shop where I'd met friends my mother later convinced me were bad influences. Everywhere I looked, I saw the ghost of the girl I'd been. Small. Apologetic. Constantly second-guessing herself. She felt like someone I'd known once but couldn't quite remember clearly anymore. My phone rang. Mark. Hey. How did it go? We won. Restraining order approved. Judge ordered them to produce the trust documents. Silence. Then, I can't believe it's real. That a judge actually saw what they've been doing. They made it easy. The video of them at my apartment threatening me was pretty damning. I should have been there. At the hearing. To support you. You're supporting me now. That's enough. I merged onto the highway. Mark, the judge is investigating the trust. When she finds out what Mom did with the money, and she will find out, this is going to get worse before it gets better. Are you prepared for that? I've been talking to Sophie about it. She thinks I should increase my therapy sessions. Process everything as it comes out rather than waiting until I'm drowning in it. Sophie sounds smart. She is. She also thinks I should consider changing my last name. Distance myself from the family reputation, he laughed, but it sounded strained. Is it terrible that I'm considering it? It's not terrible. It's self-preservation. You're not changing yours. I've thought about it. But Chen was my grandmother's name too. The one who left us the trust. I don't want to erase her by erasing the name. I took the exit toward my apartment. Besides, I've spent 27 years letting them define what Chen means. Maybe it's time I reclaim it on my own terms. After we hung up, I sat in my parking garage for a long time. The concrete walls felt safe. Contained. No one could see me here. No one expected anything from me. I cried for the first time since the airport. Not sad tears. Release. 3 years of carrying the weight of their manipulation, of doubting myself, of wondering if I was the problem, all of it flowing out of me in waves. When I finally stopped, my face was swollen and my throat hurt, but I felt lighter. Cleaner. My phone buzzed. Jasmine, coffee shop in 20? I'm buying. And bringing tissues just in case. I texted back, how did you know? Because I know you. And because days like today are huge even when they go well. The coffee shop was small, tucked into a corner 2 blocks from my apartment. We discovered it 3 months ago and adopted it as our place. Jasmine was already at our usual table when I arrived, 2 cups of tea steaming between her hands. You look exactly how I expected you to look, she said as I sat down. Like I've been crying in my car? Like you've been crying in your car after winning in court. She pushed a cup toward me. Chamomile. Good for the soul. We sat in comfortable silence while I sipped the tea. The shop was quiet, mid-afternoon lull between lunch and dinner crowds. A student typed on a laptop in the corner. An older man read a newspaper by the window. Normal life, continuing around us. Do you want to talk about it? Jasmine asked finally. I don't know what to say. I won. The judge believed me. My parents have to stay away from me, and they're going to be investigated for the trust fraud. Everything I wanted to happen, happened. I wrapped my hands around the warm cup. So why do I feel so strange? Because you spent your whole life believing they were good people who loved you badly. And today a judge confirmed they're not good people. They're abusive criminals. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. That's a lot to process, Riley. Give yourself permission to feel however you feel about it. I saw my mother's face when the judge ordered the investigation. She looked terrified. And for just a second, I felt sorry for her. That's because you're a good person. She wouldn't feel sorry for me if our positions were reversed. I know. That's what makes you different from her. A woman entered the shop with a little girl, maybe 5 years old. The child was chattering excitedly about her day at kindergarten, something about painting and snack time, and a new friend named Emma. The mother listened with complete attention, asking questions, laughing at the funny parts. I watched them order hot chocolate and cookies, watched the mother help her daughter climb onto a stool, watched them share the cookies like it was a sacred ritual. That's what it should have looked like, I said quietly. Jasmine followed my gaze. Yeah. It should have. Do you think I'll ever have that? Be able to be that kind of parent? The kind who actually listens to their kid and doesn't sabotage them at every turn? She smiled. Riley, you're already breaking the cycle just by recognizing what was wrong. That's half the battle. We finished our tea and walked back to my apartment together. The evening air was cool but not cold. San Francisco in its perfect spring mode. Will you come to dinner tomorrow? I asked as we reached my building. Nothing fancy. Just us and maybe some takeout. I don't want to be alone with my thoughts yet. Of course. But Riley? You're going to be okay. You know that, right? I thought about the timeline I'd built, the evidence I'd gathered, the way I'd stood in that courtroom and told my truth without flinching. I thought about the judge's face when she'd reviewed my documentation, the way she'd looked at my parents with clear disapproval. I thought about how I'd cried in my car not because I was sad, but because I was free. Yeah, I said. I think I actually do know that now. That night, I opened my laptop and looked at the Timeline website one more time. All those incidents, all that pain, documented and organized and undeniable. I'd built it as a weapon, but looking at it now, I saw something else, proof that I'd survived. Every sabotage they'd thrown at me, I'd documented. Every manipulation, I'd recognized eventually. Every attempt to keep me small, I'd resisted even when I didn't fully understand what I was resisting. I'd been fighting back all along. I just hadn't known how to name what I was doing. Tomorrow, David would begin the process of unraveling my mother's financial crimes. Next week, I'd return to work and lead the new client pitch Patricia had mentioned. Next month, I'd submit my MBA applications. My life was becoming mine again, piece by piece. But tonight, I allowed myself to simply exist in the stillness. To acknowledge that something monumental had shifted. To sit with the discomfort of victory, because victory over your own parents should be uncomfortable. It should hurt a little, even when it's necessary. I made myself dinner, pasta with vegetables, nothing elaborate, and ate while watching the sunset paint my windows gold. The city sparkled below. Somewhere out there, my parents were dealing with the consequences of their actions for the first time in their lives. And I was here. Safe. Free. Whole. The journey wasn't over. The trust investigation would take months. The emotional processing would take longer. But I turned a corner today in that courtroom. Stepped from defense into offense. Stopped being the victim of their story and became the author of my own. My phone buzzed one last time before bed. A text from an unknown number. This is Aunt Linda. Mark gave me your new number. I just wanted to say I'm proud of you. Your grandmother would be proud too. You did the right thing today. I saved her contact and typed back, thank you. That means everything. Before I fell asleep, I made a note in my journal, something my therapist had suggested I start doing. Just one line to mark the day. Today I chose myself. Again. And it got easier. Final update. 6 months have passed since the restraining order hearing. The family trust investigation revealed exactly what I'd suspected. My mother had been systematically draining the account for years, using the money to fund their lifestyle while telling me and Mark the funds were being preserved for our futures. The original amount, $300,000 for each of us, had grown to nearly $500,000 per person through proper investment before my mother gained control. By the time the investigation uncovered her theft, only $127,000 remained of my share. Mark's was in similar condition. She'd falsified documents, forged my grandmother's signature on authorization forms, and created a paper trail designed to make the theft look like legitimate expenses for our care and benefit. College expenses she'd never paid. Medical costs that didn't exist. Living expenses from years when I'd been financially independent. The district attorney filed criminal charges. Wire fraud. Forgery. Theft. My father claimed ignorance, said he trusted my mother to handle the finances and hadn't known about the theft. The evidence suggested otherwise, but his cooperation in providing documents helped reduce his charges. My mother maintained her innocence right up until her lawyer showed her the forensic accounting report. Then she crumbled. Pleaded guilty in exchange for a reduced sentence. She served 11 months in a minimum security facility and was required to make full restitution to both Mark and me. The missing money came from the sale of their house. The beautiful 4-bedroom colonial they'd lived in for 20 years, the one they'd hosted family gatherings in every holiday, the center of their carefully constructed image of success. Gone. Sold to pay back the children they'd stolen from. They're living in a 2-bedroom apartment now. My father still has his job, but the scandal damaged his reputation. My mother works retail, something I never imagined her doing. Pride was always her defining characteristic. Mark and I split the legal fees. We also split the decision to remain no contact with them even after the criminal case concluded. They'd sent apology letters through their lawyers. Carefully worded, probably reviewed by legal counsel, full of passive constructions that avoided taking real responsibility. We shredded them. The family fractured along expected lines. Some relatives sided with my parents. Family is family, they'd made mistakes but they were still our parents, surely we could forgive. Others, particularly Aunt Linda and a few of my younger cousins, understood. Supported us. Respected our boundaries. Thanksgiving last year was strange. Mark and I hosted dinner at my apartment for a small group: Jasmine, Aunt Linda, Mark's girlfriend Sophie, and a few friends who'd become chosen family. We cooked too much food, drank decent wine, and laughed without the undercurrent of tension that had defined every family gathering I could remember. Patricia promoted me again. Senior Director of Analytics. Corner office with those floor-to-ceiling windows I'd fallen in love with. The view from the 14th floor is even better than from my apartment. I've started teaching a workshop for young professionals about recognizing manipulation in personal and professional settings. Not therapy, I'm careful about that boundary, but practical skills. How to identify gaslighting. How to document abuse. How to separate justified criticism from systematic undermining. The workshops are always full. Apparently, I'm not the only one who needed to learn these lessons. The money from the trust has been reinvested. Some of it went into an emergency fund. I never want to feel trapped again. Some went to graduate school applications. I'm starting an MBA program in the fall, part-time while I continue working. The program I want, not the one my parents would have chosen for me. I bought myself a gift with some of the restitution, a beautiful necklace with a small sapphire pendant. My birthstone. I wear it every day as a reminder that I chose myself. That I was worth choosing. Mark is doing well. He started therapy after everything came out, realized he'd been carrying his own trauma from our parents' control, just manifested differently than mine. He proposed to Sophie last month. I'm going to be a bridesmaid. Our parents are not invited. Sometimes people ask if I regret how things unfolded. If I wish I tried harder to reconcile, to find some middle ground where I could maintain a relationship with my parents while protecting myself. The answer is no. There was no middle ground. There never had been. They'd offered me only two options: complete submission or complete separation. I'd spent 27 years choosing submission without realizing it was a choice. Finally, choosing separation wasn't revenge. It was survival. I don't hate them. That's the strangest part. I've moved past hatred into something closer to indifference. They're people who hurt me badly, and now they're people I don't know anymore. Both things can be true. Last week, I ran into my mother at a coffee shop. Pure coincidence, I'd stopped in a neighborhood I don't usually visit to meet a friend. She was working behind the counter. Our eyes met. She looked older. Smaller somehow. For a moment, I saw something flicker across her face. Recognition. Shame. Maybe regret. She didn't speak to me. The restraining order had expired, but we both knew the boundaries remained. She made my coffee with shaking hands and set it on the counter without a word. I left a generous tip. Not because I forgave her, but because I could afford to be generous now. I had my life back. She couldn't take anything else from me. Jasmine was waiting outside. Was that your mom? Yeah. Are you okay? I thought about it. Checked in with myself the way my therapist had taught me. No racing heart. No sweaty palms. No spiraling thoughts. Just quiet certainty. I'm okay. Really? Really? We walked to the park and sat on a bench in the sun. Spring in San Francisco is unpredictable, but today was perfect. Warm without being hot. Clear sky. Flowers blooming in the carefully maintained beds. You know what's weird? I said. I spent so much of my life trying to make them proud of me. Trying to be the daughter they wanted. And I was miserable. Now I've become someone I'm proud of, someone they definitely wouldn't approve of, and I've never been happier. Jasmine linked her arm through mine. You became who you were supposed to be all along. They just kept you from seeing it. They tried to keep me from seeing it, I corrected. But I saw it anyway. Eventually. My phone buzzed. Patricia, asking if I could join a meeting Monday morning. Potential new client, major account, she thought I'd be perfect to lead the pitch. I texted back, absolutely. Send me the details. The sun felt warm on my face. The coffee was good. My best friend sat beside me, solid and real and chosen. Across the city, in an office I'd earned, my name waited on a door. Everything they tried to take from me, I'd built back stronger. Not despite them, but because of what they taught me in their cruelty, that I was stronger than they'd wanted me to believe. That their version of love was poison. That I deserved better than what they'd offered. I'd learned those lessons well. And I'd used them to set myself free. Sometimes the hardest thing we'll ever do is choose ourselves over the people who taught us we weren't worth choosing. But here's what I learned: you are worth it. Every difficult conversation, every burned bridge, every moment of standing alone, worth it. Because on the other side of that fear is a life that actually belongs to you. Not the life someone else scripted. Not the person they needed you to be. Just you, real and flawed and free. And that person? That person is enough. That person was always enough. Sometimes it just takes walking through fire to remember it. The people who truly love you will never ask you to make yourself smaller to fit their comfort. They will never systematically dismantle your confidence, your opportunities, your sense of self. Real love builds. It doesn't destroy. And once you know the difference, once you really understand it in your bones, you can never go back to accepting less. Nor should you. You deserve people in your life who celebrate your growth, not punish you for it. Who see your strength and stand beside it, not try to crush it. That kind of love exists. I promise you it does. But sometimes, before you can receive it, you have to be brave enough to walk away from the counterfeit version. You have to choose yourself first. And when you do, when you really do, you'll discover something remarkable. You were never as alone as they convinced you that you were. You were just surrounded by the wrong people. The right ones are waiting. And they'll recognize you immediately, because you'll finally look like yourself.